Thank you all for joining us for this panel. I'd like to start with you, Brent. I know the jail population has been over safe capacity for several years, and that county leaders have insisted that we cannot safely reduce the number of inmates to appropriate levels. So what do jail numbers look like right now?
Well, according to the LJ World and the Sheriff Department's own website, the overcrowding problem at our county jail was effectively erased in just the last couple of weeks, thanks to some new policies that were triggered by the coronavirus. The biggest thing that they did was simply release people who met a few basic criteria. They were, for example, not accused of accused of a non-violent offense. They were waiting for their trial date in jail because they couldn't afford a cash bond, and they were considered to be at risk of spreading or contracting COVID-19. Secondly, the courts are now providing immediate hearings for anyone booked into jail who meet these conditions. And that's effectively limiting their time locked up.
Okay. So what are we supposed to make of that? That it takes a pandemic to lower our jail population?
No, it does not take a pandemic to lower our jail population. That hides the most important lesson here. Yes, health risk is apparently a factor when the Sheriff's Department is deciding to release someone. But more importantly, the policies put in place during this pandemic clearly demonstrate that we can safely reduce the number of people we lock up in our county jail. And guess what? This is what other communities have been doing for years without a pandemic.
I see. And these are the types of local reforms that we've lifted up for years. So how can we continue to help our county move forward towards a more just justice system?
Well, one thing that our community desperately needs is a better understanding of who's in our jail and why they're there. Justice Matters is currently supporting a study to examine how Douglas County can better support its citizens so that fewer people become involved with the criminal justice system in the first place. And I'm grateful that Dr. Shannon Portillo has joined us to share a little bit about that study.
And I'm happy to be here, Joanna. A colleague of mine, Dr. Danielle Roods from George Mason's Center for Advancing Correctional Excellence, was hired by Justice Matters to answer a pretty straightforward question. What are effective alternatives to incarceration that our local community should invest in? Because the research demonstrates that incarceration in jails and prisons can have negative consequences for individuals and communities. Incarceration is expensive, and research consistently shows that it produces poor results when it comes to reducing crime. I encourage our local policymakers to consider all of their options for improving our community before investing millions in a bigger jail. Basically, our study is designed to figure out what services the county can provide that would help keep people out of jail to begin with, or keep them from recidivating or going back to jail once they've been released. We'll have a full report to Justice Matters by June.
That's the ACE study. But Justice Matters has also gained a commitment from the Vera Institute to do a separate study. And Brent, what are they looking into?
Yeah, well, in November 2019, Vera agreed to help Justice Matters understand what's driving our recent spike in the number of people we lock up in jail. And the idea is to identify local policies that could eliminate misuse of our county jail.
Okay, but we can't even get started on this study because we're not able to acquire the data, right?
Yeah, that's right. Vera has offered to do the research for free, but in order to do the research, they need data from the Sheriff's Department. And the Sheriff's Department has refused the open records request that Vera sent in December, saying that providing the data was an undue burden. Now, Vera did ask for and does need quite a bit of data to do a thorough report, but Vera also has developed special software and techniques to help counties extract that data in a usable way, and they've offered their services in doing that. So we've recently hired a local attorney who specializes in open records requests, and he feels pretty confident that the county and Vera can work together to get the information that Vera needs with minimal burden on the county. And once the data is provided to Vera, they have projected about 4 to 6 months turnaround time to produce their recommendations for us.
So Justice Matters has had a long road in advocating for alternatives to incarceration here in Douglas County. And despite the ongoing research and many possibilities for lowering our jail population, the County Commission voted on January 29 of this year to move forward with the major jail expansion project, estimated to cost taxpayers approximately $30 million in construction costs, plus $300 million increased operation costs over the next 30 years. The county plans to pay for the construction with a bond or a loan. In response to this decision by the county, Justice Matters Board unanimously agreed to hire legal counsel to address what we believe is an illegal government action. One of the attorneys hired to work on this matter is Jim Kaup. So Jim, thank you for being here. And can you please tell us about the nature of the legal action being taken by Justice Matters?
Our position is that the counties, in its course of action, is in violation of state law, which authorizes counties to issue bonds, and specifically the state law that the county is relying upon to issue general obligation bonds to pay for the proposed jail expansion. So we have, in response, filed a mandamus action in Douglas County District Court. Now, mandamus is the instrument that is used to compel public officials to perform a duty required by law or to follow the requirements of a law that applies to an action which the public officials are taking.
So what guidelines were they supposed to follow?
Well, the county is proceeding under a specific state law that provides that if the voters have not already authorized bonds to be issued, the county has to publish public notice and provide an opportunity for a petition for an election to let the voters decide whether or not to issue the bonds.
Okay, so this is a voter rights issue then.
Very much so. Along with the other issues that have been discussed already, this is clearly a voting rights issue. The state legislature for many years has been concerned about local governments creating public debt unless the voters have had a say in imposing that debt upon themselves. And the state law at issue here, the specific statute which the county is proposing to operate under, is just one of many examples of that state law commitment to protect taxpayers.
Why didn't the county commissioners follow state law?
Well, we don't know for sure what the rationale is for the Board of County Commissioners' actions. We gave the county all of our research and analysis weeks before filing the mandamus action, did so in the hope that we could avoid litigation. The response we got from the Douglas County Councilor was that the county did not have to provide notice to the public nor allow for a petition that could result in an election. Now, the county's position is an extremely paternalistic one. It essentially is saying that the Board of County Commissioners were given a credit card by the voters back in 1994 that allows the county to issue public debt without having to go to the voters and the taxpayers and giving them the opportunity to even petition the government to conduct an election on the question of whether or not to issue that public debt. We obviously disagree very strongly with the county's position. We say that the 1994 election only authorized a 1-cent countywide sales tax. The ballot proposition in 1994 did not authorize any bonds to be issued, not in 1994, not in 1995, not in 2020. We have a lot of law that supports our position, and best of all, we have the plain wording of the 1994 ballot proposition that the voters saw and acted on.
So how long do you think this legal case will take?
If the county sticks to its position that the voters have no say in the issuance of these proposed jail bonds, this matter could take 6 months, a year, 2 years to resolve, depending upon the court decisions and appeals that might be taken from those decisions.
Okay. So regarding the petition, how many signatures would we need to collect, and how much time do we have to do that in?
Well, the state law sets out all the requirements for the petition. And in short, from the time that public notice is published, a petitioner would have between 35 and 40 days, somewhere in there, to gather up approximately 2,500 signatures of registered voters in Douglas County.
Well, and that's the good news, is that we're not in this alone. The Sunset Alliance and several individuals have signed on to this legal action with us. In addition to that, Kansas Appleseed and the NAACP Defense Fund are contributing legal support to this effort. And as we saw at the January 29th County Commission meeting, this is an issue of concern for many county residents, not just those of us involved with Justice Matters. So I think we can do this.
Absolutely. You're right. It is good news. Okay, so I want to thank everyone on this panel. I know we're all working hard in strange times. So I thank you again for taking the time to explain this. Okay, folks, it's call to action time. So as you just heard Jim Kalp describe, Justice Matters is taking legal action in order to be able to circulate a petition to allow voters to decide if this county is going to take on debt to expand the jail. We're not in a position to circulate the petition just yet, but we want to be poised to take quick action when the time comes. After all, as Jim said, we will likely have just a few weeks to collect 2,500 signatures when we are allowed to begin circulating the petition. So even though our Nehemiah action is canceled, you can still take action tonight. We need you to pledge to sign the petition. And to do that, you simply need to text us and answer a few simple questions so that we know how to connect with you quickly when the time comes. So here's what you do, and it's easy. Text the word democracy to the number 3377. It's that simple. Just type the numbers 33777 into the recipient field of a text message, and then type the word democracy into the body of that message, and then hit send. Then answer a few questions such as your name and email address so we know how to get the petition to you for signing. But you also have to spread the word to your Douglas County friends, family, any citizen of Douglas County you know has a heart for justice. Ask them to text the word democracy to 33777 and pledge to sign the petition as well. Together, we can get the question of expanding the Douglas County Jail on the ballot and let the voters' voice be heard. And now I'm going to turn us over to the Homelessness Committee for important updates on their work.